And this time we're going to be learning about NextJS. NextJS is a static site generator. Again, like we mentioned before in the previous video about static generators, it allows you to build static sites, which again, they are the most performant ones. And the fastest page that you can build is the one that the server doesn't have to do any processing in. So you got your server, oops, you got your server if with other technologies like ASP.NET or Java-based framework, um, your server has to process those pages and create information to deliver to a browser. On the other hand, if you pre-build that information into HTML pages that are basically the native elements of the web, if you can do that, your server, all you have to do is to serve the static page to the browser, and any pushback functionality can be done through JS to JavaScript, and then calls a very small API. And then this API could be a server that's cheaper to host because it only has to care about the API. Again, the most of your site will be hosted by a dumb server that just serves static content. Now, the typical problem with serving static content is that you have to build every page by hand in HTML. Well, that's where the static site generators come to a rescue. They'll allow you to use not newer technology, but different technologies to be able to build those pages where you're having to write manually those pages. And one of those static site generators is Next.js. And Next.js, the technology that it relies on is React.js. So you're basically are using React.js, but not to create dynamic size not to create React.js code that runs at runtime, but React.js that is used to generate static pages that then get served by the server as they were generated to the browser in a very fast way. Again, because they're static, they're just dumb file, a dumb HTML file. So we're gonna get started. I went to the Next.js site and I went to the getting started. And the get started is telling us that if we are new to Next.js, that they recommend the Learn course. Okay, well, we're gonna do that. I'm gonna close this here. So we went to a create Next.js app, and they have a small introduction. So what they're basically saying is, whatever static site generator that you use, you have to pick one that's developer friendly and that is gonna give you a good experience. And they rely on React uh, to deliver that developer friendly experience for Next.js. The kick on this one is that it has multiple features for pre-rendering. And they're gonna go over later on here, but if you are wanna look at the features, the very important features, some of them are very standard for static site generators. Like automatic splitting is one, pre-rendering is very standard. What the difference are how they do that pre-rendering, and in this case, they're doing the pre-rendering using a React-based framework. So it's an interactive course, and we'll go through that. And they're telling us this is gonna be the end result. So let's get started. Again, we're assuming that they're assuming that we know React. In my case, I know React. I have done React before. So that's why that's why I can go through the tutorial, because I have experience with the React framework before. But if you don't, like they're recommending, learn React first. This is important. They're making sure they have development environment ready. You can install Node.js and a text editor. I recommend Visual Studio Code. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna open it right here. I have Visual Studio Code. That's my favorite text editor now. You have to have Git. I do have Git. And then I'm gonna create a NextJS app. So go to a terminal and sit into the directory you like to create an app in and run the following command. So I have a command here in my folder. So I'm gonna do enter. And by the way, I was able to get to this via the command line. One quick way to do the command line is to go here in File and then do either this or just type CMD on the address bar, and it will take you, it will open the terminal inside that same folder. So it's going to install some npm packages and generate some applications. I mean, generate some files for the application. So that was done. And it gave you some information about what it actually did. Run the development server. Okay. I'm gonna run it. That cd is just to change the current directory, cd, and then follow the following command. And it's telling you that this is going to start NextJS apps development server. And they're going to tell us more about it later. On port 3000. You know something I forgot to do? I forgot to change the size of the font. So let me do that right now. There you go. Hopefully that you can see that better. And still it's running. So we're going to go to this link. This link is going to take us to a page inside our computer. So our computer is running a program listening on port 3000, and it's connecting. That connects to the Next.js development server. Oh, I guess it wasn't that. I had to click on it and hit some enter. Sometimes on Windows terminal applications, that's something you have to do. That you have to click on the terminal and then hit enter. So we see, welcome to Next.js. You see a page like this when you access that. Oh, now we're going to edit the page. So we make sure that the development server is still running, and it is. Open pages index, and then say welcome, learn. All right, let's look at in our Visual Studio. I'm going to open Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to open my folder. NextJS blog, select folder. So that's the folder that was generated by that previous command that we ran a few minutes ago. So in here, they tell us to go to pages. That I guess represents our pages. And go to index, which is this. And instead of create next app or welcome to, we're going to do learn. And let's save that. And let's see what happens. Oh, there you go. It changed. So that was an instantaneous change because our development server was running. Again, those changes are instantly. That's going to help us make changes and very, very fast, in a fast loop, they call it. Create more pages. Websites and applications have many different pages. Okay. So there is an integrated file system routing. I am continuing. Yep. So we already did this. So skip. A page is a React component exported from a file in the pages directory. So I guess they were saying is that any new page has to go inside the pages folder. That kind of makes sense. Pages are associated with a route based on their file name. So pages index is associated with that. Pages post, first post is associated with that. We already have the pages index.cs file. So let's create pages post, first post. So I'm going to create the post directory. And then first post. And then we're going to export this module there. So the component being this, you have to export it. It has to be the full export. Now let's go to first post. Here you go. That's our second page that we made. So for any page that we want, simply just create a new page in the pages directory. So if you wanted to add a new route, authors me, what will the file name be? Include directory. Authors, a folder called authors. Actually, under pages, authors, and then me. Link component. So that's the link between both components. First, open pages indexes. Okay, we're going to do that. That goes over here. Yep, and change it to that. Let me format this a little bit better. There we go. I don't know what that is. I guess it'll tell us later. Adds an empty space. Ah, okay, well, that just adds an empty space. Let's go back to the first post and do this. That's interesting. It's an empty tag. Okay, that's fine. Might be some sort of div or something. The link component is similar to a tag, but instead of a blah blah blah, you use link. Now let's see if it works. Read this page. Oh, now I see it. So this is not a function call. That is not a function call. That's just static text. And we just needed this to create that space in there. Yeah, okay. That makes more sense now. I wonder if NBSP works as well. Blank space. Nope. I guess that gets escaped. Well, that was interesting then. Usually it works with regular HTML. And sure enough, that link works very well. The link component enables client-side navigation between two pages in the same NextJS app. Client-side navigation means that the page transition happens using JavaScript, which is faster than the default navigation done by the browser. Ah, well, okay. Use the browser developer tools to change the background CSS property of HTML to yellow. Ah, interesting. So the browser is not loading the whole page. And we can see that by going here to the body HTML and then background color. We're gonna do yellow. So we click on back. Ah, sure enough, it's sharing the same one. That's interesting. Next is does code split automatically? So each page only loads what's necessary for that page. That's interesting. This ensures that the home page loads quickly, even if they have hundreds of pages. So no matter how many pages you have, there's a logic to avoid overloading that first page. If we need to do an external one, we just use A. Assets, metadata, and CSS. The second page we added currently does not have any styling. Let's add some CSS styling to style the page. NextJS has built-in support for CSS and Sass. How to add static files. How to customize them. Assets. So anything in public can be referenced by pages. Or use this file. Whose file is this? Okay, we'll use that file. We're gonna download this file. Save image as. We're gonna put it in our public directory, I guess. So as profile JPEG, public images directory. So I forgot to do a folder called images. And then move the profile there. Move. And we can remove the logo one. Regular HTML, you add the profile picture as follows. That's true. Next image is an extension of HTML. That's nice. I handled the optimization by default. NextJS optimizes images on demand as users request them. Unlike site generators and static-only solutions, your build times are not increased. But I wonder if we could actually turn that on, because we do want some dumb servers to run our dumb static site. Images are lazy loaded by default. Scroll into viewport. Cumulative layout shift. And this is very important. Aspect ratio identical to the source image. That way, when you pay, this height and width has to have the same ratio. That way, the resizing of the image doesn't distort the image. So copy this. Oh, I'm sorry, no need to copy it yet. But you can see how it displays the image, width and width, the height and width. Metadata. So head is a React component. You can import the head component from the next head module. I'll copy this into the first post to add a head. So we're updating this. First post, first post. That's your title right there. Notice here it says first post on the browser. CSS styling. Index.js. Style. I do not. Oh, there you go. Style.js. Interesting. CSS in JS library. Oh, and the CSS styles will be scope, meaning that it won't apply to other components. Writing and importing CSS. NextJS has built-in support for CSS and Sass. You can also use Tailwind CSS. Oh, a layout component that can be shared across all pages. Very important. A very good feature of static site generators. Top level directory called components. And then layout.js. Let's create a new, whoopsies, that's not what I wanted. Has to be a top level component. Ah, stop it. Here, new folder, components. Then layout. JS. So that's our layout. Then open pages, post, first post, and an import for the layout component. And then put in the outermost. Yep, so instead of here, there you go. And we have to update at the bottom here too. Adding CSS. Okay, so we're gonna add, that's interesting. New file, module CSS. I'm gonna call it this. That's with the content. And it has must end on the module CSS. We have to import the CSS file. Then use styles container as a class name. So we import the file first in our layout. And then we use it. This is coming from here. Container is coming from this. Okay, so you notice it has gone. And you can notice the same layout because if I, let's say I do color for the text color and then I do blue violet. Now it's blue violet. Now if you take a look at the HTML browser developed tools, it has done that. How do we know that? Go to inspect and look at that. Look at that class name. It was auto-generated by our process, our NextJS process. It has a unique class name so that it doesn't conflict with other modules. Which of the following styling methods does Next.js not have built-in support for? Well, I don't know. That's interesting. I actually don't know the question for that one. I mean, I think it's CSS modules. Huh. Style components. Okay. That's right. That CSS modules is what we've been doing, so it definitely has built-in support. Literally what we just did just now. Yep, but sometimes we do, like they are saying here, sometimes we do need some global CSS. App.js. Okay. Go to app.js under pages. No, paste that. That's, I guess, our global container, our global shell, so to speak. And I guess when we do that, we need to stop it. Close this and run it again. Adding global CSS. And like we did before, we import it. Okay, we need a top level styles folder. The top level means over here. Styles. I'm gonna call this one global CSS. And then we're gonna put this content here. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna remove this one here. We don't need that one anymore. So we added this global CSS file. The question is it gonna, oh, there you go. We have to import it. That was my question. So we're gonna import in that shell file that we created, and we're gonna use it. How are we gonna use it? Oh, that's it. I guess it just importing it, it does it. Okay. So let's see the result. I don't see that. It's not blue. Maybe maybe let's go back to the global CSS. Let's do something more crazy than that. Something that can jump out. Oh, text decoration underline. So, well, it's always going to underline. This hover, I wanted to change it to yellow. Let's see if that works. Nope. So that didn't work. Well, let's see what happened. Let's check our page.js, our app.js. It looks exactly the same. Global CSS. All right. And that was everything that they told us to do. Maybe let's restart the server again. And let's visit the page again. Still not doing it. Now this one is doing it. Let me do something more subtle. Um, let's see, border color. Let's do brown. So it's not applying that. Let's go to our web browser console, and now we see it's 2 errors. Well, that's not it. Let's see on our elements to see if the CSS has been applied or not. I don't see a CSS here. Components. Yeah, I do not see the CSS being loaded. Let me try a hard refresh. Do not see our CSS. I see the app.js. Let's try global. It's not. Maybe we didn't save it. Oh, there you go. This one is not yellow, but this one is. So this one is applying the CSS. And the reason the other one didn't have the index, let's take a look at that one because that bothers me a little bit. It's a link, but it's under an H1. So I guess the H1 is overriding it. So that might be why. The color might be being overridden by an H1 directive. Let's take a look. This guy has yep, there you go. No, that's not it. Color brown. Okay, brown is being overridden by somebody, by this guy, the title.js, and a text decoration. So this guy, that makes sense. We were not seeing the yellow because somewhere in here is overriding that. Yep, maybe. Yeah, there you go. That's why. Let's go back to our lesson. So the thing is that the reason it wasn't working for me is because I have forgotten to save it. We're almost done with this one. When we're done with this section, when we can stop the video. CSS, okay, we did that. Where can you import global CSS files? Only inside app pages. Publishing layout. Components layout module CSS. Let's copy that. And then utils that. Notice these styles, those CSS files are not under public. They are under the root because they get referenced by the JavaScript files that in turn are in charge of pulling them when they need to. And let's change layout.js. Your name to an actual name. My name is... Oh, there you go. Notice this is being referenced over here. Juanito. Boolean home prop, which will adjust the size of the title and the image. Okay. Home. So, okay, so if it's home, then it's going to add that. Else, it's going to add this other thing. Okay, so that way we have a different layout for where or not is the home page, I believe. Added images with NextJS images. And then for the index, we're going to do that. I wonder how that home variable is getting set, how the home property is getting set. I don't know if this is because of the title. I don't know. That's interesting to know how he knows. How does it know that it's home? Man, that's gonna bother me. When we're taking properties, that's the whole point. We're taking properties and something with them. Well, you know what? Let me do this. Let me do header main. Let me do a paragraph that says home. Let's see what happens. No, it's empty. Okay. What if I go to first post? No, nothing either. Okay. Somehow home is something, but I don't know what it is. Well, that's interesting. I'm gonna delete it here. I guess it gets set automatically. Right? And we're gonna take a pause, and we're gonna see you next lesson on how to pull data for our site. Thank you.